So yeah, as the title suggests, we're going to be going over a variety of different topics today involving Baldur's Gate 3 and Larian Studios, of course, from Larian blasting corporate greed, to Todd Howard takes on Baldur's Gate 3, to Baldur's Gate 4. Yes, we have some more news on that and much, much more. Chapter markers below. So up first, how about a sequel to Baldur's Gate 3? Well, we know that Larian is stepping away from not only the Baldur's Gate franchise, but also D&D in general, and they are currently working on 2 new projects, with both of them seemingly being their own IPs. Larian, of course, owns the Divinity franchise, but they may also be developing something completely new. And this, of course, was confirmed in Larian's most recent community update, where they said, after 6 years in the Forgotten Realms, blah blah, we decided to seize this opportunity to develop our own IPs. We're currently working on 2 new projects. Baldur's Gate 3 was clearly a massive success, and it's important to note that for what we're about to talk about. And if we take a look at the Steam charts, we have a concurrent player peak of 75,000 on Steam, so excluding PlayStation and Xbox, over 9 months after the game's release. Considering that Baldur's Gate 3 is kind of like falls into that single player RPG category, even though you can play it multiplayer, this is incredible. You would think that Baldur's Gate 3 is like some online live service ongoing game, but it's not. They're not even doing expansions. And 75,000 player peak. Look at Starfield, 6,700. Now, with that said, Starfield, of course, was on Xbox and PC Game Pass, so it's a little bit different, but that's still just incredible. And what do you think that means? Well, Baldur's Gate 3, making that money, and the Baldur's Gate name has potential to make a lot more money. Who do you think's sniffing that out? Hasbro! But before we get deeper into it, a quick message from my favorite and of course most delicious video sponsor, Factor.
So good.
Factor is a meal prep, cook, and delivery service that drops off fresh, never frozen, dietitian-approved meals right to your doorstep. And the best part yet is they're ready to eat in just 2 minutes. So no matter how busy you are, you'll always have time to enjoy a nutritious, great-tasting meal. All you Northern Hemisphere folks, warmer, sunnier days are calling, and there's no better time than now to get those wellness goals going and get that beach body. And Factor allows you to do just that with offering options such as Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, and even Keto. There's a whopping 35 plus different meals and 60 add-ons to choose from every week, so you'll always have new flavors to explore. For myself, this service is huge because I hate grocery shopping, I suck at cooking, and most importantly, I refuse to clean pots and pans. And even more importantly, I get to drop one off for Grandma June every week, and she loves them. So head to Factor75.com or click the link below and use code WolfheartFPS to get 50% off your first Factor box and 20% off your next month of orders. That's Factor75.com, code WolfheartFPS for 50% off your first Factor box and 20% off your next month of orders. Back to the video. So Hasbro, who owns Wizards of the Coast, and of course they have the D&D IP, has revealed to us in a PC Gamer interview that there will eventually be a Baldur's Gate 3 sequel, and it's in its extremely early stages as they are currently exploring potential partners. We're going to take our time and find the right partner, the right approach, and the right product that could represent the future of Baldur's Gate. We take that very, very seriously, as we do with all of our decisions around our portfolio. We don't rush into decisions as to who to partner with on products or what products we should be considering. I couldn't even read that with a straight face because clearly Hasbro has rushed into things in the past, but you know what? We're looking to the future. And you know what? I gotta admit that I am kind of excited to hear that a Baldur's Gate 4 or whatever it's going to be called is in its early stages. Let's hope that Hasbro actually chooses a company that is competent and really knows what they're doing. Maybe Obsidian would be an interesting proposition here. One thing that does give me a little bit of hope here is that Larian has proven that quality and passion do sell and can sell really good. But one thing I also worry about is how much control is Hasbro and Wizards going to have over this next game, because Larian seemed to be mostly in control for BG3. They acquired the license and kind of did their thing. They of course had to check in with Wizards with the lore and get approval on stuff like that, but generally speaking it was Larian's project. At least that's the way that it comes across. This next one I feel like is going to be more so Wizards and Hasbro's project, which makes me a little bit worried. Hasbro's methods for acquiring great money from us peasants has not exactly always been labeled as consumer friendly, but I'm trying to consider here that Larian actually made a real impact on the industry, and Hasbro is truly looking at Larian and the success that they achieved, and perhaps, just perhaps, Hasbro and Wizards are considering that strategy for this next game, because of course Hasbro likes things to sell, so not sure. But shit, now we got to look at all the layoffs. Hasbro layoffs affect Wizards of the Coast. Hasbro, parent company to Wizards of the Coast, announced that it will be laying off 1,100 staff members in an internal company-wide email on December 11th. And of course, many of those that were laid off were actually employees of Wizards of the Coast. But what I really wanted to talk about here was Hasbro is talking about wanting to, go into the future with this new mindset of taking their time and putting out quality games and this Baldur's Gate 4 project. Well, Sven Vinka, the owner and creative director of Larian Studios, tweeted out something kind of referencing the layoffs here. I also want to thank Wizards D&D and specifically the D&D team for giving us carte blanche. I'm really sorry to hear so many of you were let go. It's a sad thing to realize that of the people who were in the original meeting room, there's almost nobody left. I hope you all end up well. So this is kind of weird because Hasbro's talking about the bright future with the next Baldur's Gate game and all their video games, but they basically let go many of the employees who worked with Larian on the highly successful Baldur's Gate 3, and those employees have those skills. And they're part of that success, and they just got let go, and they're gone now out of Hasbro. Of course, we can never truly know who these people were, why they were chosen, etc. But it's just a little bit weird, isn't it? This would be the perfect time to jump into the segment on Larian's comments on corporate greed and kind of their business strategy. But it's never a bad time for a Todd Howard break. So I'm going to show you guys a quick clip on the Kinda Funny Gamecast episode. I'll leave a link to this down below of Todd talking about Baldur's Gate 3.
What was your reaction to the success Baldur's Gate 3 found?
Deserved. Great studio. They've done great work for a long time.
For sure.
And so I think there's some people in the industry who look at Larian and say, oh, look at this overnight success. Like, well, have you played their previous games? I think they did a tremendous job, obviously, in what they delivered as a product, but who they are as a studio, how they go about their work, how they talk about it. I think it's fantastic.
So bravo to Hodd Toward. Now, of course, if you get asked publicly about Baldur's Gate 3, you're going to say positive things. Imagine if Todd was like, nah, Baldur's Gate 3 is not that good. The studio's kind of garbage. Starfield's better. Imagine how poorly that would reflect on him and also Bethesda. But Todd certainly didn't have to bring up the whole overnight success thing. So it seems like whenever games come out that are insanely popular with fans, not just numbers wise, but fans are actually going crazy over these games, getting tattoos, all sorts of artwork, etc., such as Elden Ring and Baldur's Gate 3, comments start to circulate in the industry from industry folks and sometimes developers that come across as a bit salty or jealous or come across as downplaying the success of these games. And even if the devs or the industry folks don't mean it to come across that way, it does, so they need to work on their PR. But Todd kind of touched on that a little bit, as there were some comments circulating about all the things that just went right for Larian during this particular period of time in Baldur's Gate's development, but they didn't talk about any of the things that didn't go right for Larian or Larian's history, and it made it come across as Larian just being an overnight success with BG3 and getting lucky, I guess you could say. When Larian is a live and learn company, they've been around since the 90s. They've done trial and error with so many different types of games. They've had publishers. They did away with publishers. They did Kickstarters. They almost went bankrupt, I believe, more than once. They decided to do consumer-friendly early access periods and over-deliver on expectations. They developed the Divinity Original Sin formula, and they took that successful formula and ramped up production times 50, which is taking a risk, and that risk paid off. But you know what? I'm not actually done yet. Larian also developed BG3 during one of the roughest, most unpredictable periods for businesses, the vid days, the COVID days. They had a studio in Russia when the Russian-Ukrainian war started. They treat their devs like human beings and not replaceable numbers. They didn't sell out when they certainly... Up next, and this will be a really quick one. So I tweeted a tweet today. Follow me at WolfheartFPS for gaming stuff. I don't get political or really into drama or anything like that. I tweeted today, and at the end of the post, I said, someone wake me up when Larian's next game is announced, and none other than Borislav, aka Bobby, the composer for BG3 and Divinity Original Sin 2, commented, good things take time, but rest assured, next adventure will be deeper and very, very exciting. So two things here. This makes it seem like Bobby will be the composer for Larian's next game, or maybe both of those games, which is great news. A lot of you guys will love to hear that. Bobby just won a BAFTA award, which is awesome. But also, every time a Larianite talks about their upcoming project, they seem like they are super excited and also extremely confident. Sven talked about how excited he is to announce these next games or the next game, and Bobby is talking about the next adventure being deeper and very, very exciting. So it seems like Larian is super pumped up for what's coming in the future, and they cannot wait to show it to us. That's good news. Speaking of Larian's thoughts on things, at the GDC conference where game developers talk to other game developers, Larian, of course, went there and talked about Baldur's Gate 3, how they made it, how it was so successful, gave advice, answered questions, things like that. Sven talks about the layoffs and this period of time in the gaming industry has been regarded as one of the worst periods ever seen for this industry. And Sven had a few comments I think you guys would actually really appreciate hearing. So Sven said, and this is on the Eurogamer.net website, "Greed has been effing this whole thing up for so long. I've been fighting publishers my entire life, and I keep seeing the same mistakes over and over and over. It's always quarterly profits. The only thing that matters are the numbers, and then you fire everybody, and then next year you say, shit, I'm out of developers. And then you start hiring people again, and then you do acquisitions, and then you put them in the same loop again, and it's just broken. You don't have to. You can make reserves, just slow down a bit, slow down on the greed, be resilient, take care of the people, don't lose the institutional knowledge that's been built up in the people you lose every single time, so you have to go through the same cycle over and over and over. It really pisses me off." And yeah, earlier in the video, we talked about Hasbro laying off all those Wizards of the Coast employees that worked with Larian and clearly did the right thing with Larian and contributed to that success, and they're now gone now. So for their next project, they're gonna have to find people to do that again. It's kind of silly. Now, with all that said, of course, this matter is much more complicated than what most of us are able to perceive here. There's a lot more that goes into it than just us listening to Sven say some good things and other companies bad. But it's very nice to hear this. It's very nice to know that the company that we are all supporting so much right now, Larian Studios, does have a mindset like this, and it really does vibe with a lot of us, that they care about their developers and they want to keep them for as long as possible. I'm much more inclined to support that than some, gigantic corporation that is always trying to appease its shareholders and doing so at the cost of consumer friendliness. That's annoying. We have finally made it to the final segment of the video where we're going to talk a little bit about Larian's marketing strategy. Some of you guys might not be interested in this, so if you end up leaving the video, thank you for watching up to this point. But for everyone else, let's continue on. So Sven retweeted Michael, very AFK, the director of publishing at Larian Studios, but also had something to say himself. "Good morning. If you work in games and are at a marketing meeting where someone is tainting the air with the words user, product, conversion, KPI, etc., and KPI is key performance indicators, share this thread and tell them a cure has been found." It's really nice to hear a studio talk like this and actually, look at us customers as real people, as actual people and gamers, as opposed to numbers that need to be manipulated. Now, I'm sure there's plenty of industries out there where focusing on conversions and KPIs, etc., is extremely effective and also important. But, buying a shirt at the Nike store is different than somebody buying a game that they're going to potentially pour hundreds of hours into, get a tattoo about, spend years and years thinking about this game in their head and getting hyped up for it, and also spending their valuable free time playing this game. It's different than like a retail industry or something like that. So it's really nice to see a company like Larian recognize this and treat us like actual people and gamers. I like that. So going into Very AFK's tweet here, it's actually quite long. I'll leave a link to it down below. I'm only going to read a few things that I want to talk about here. But it starts off with, "Ari, this dumbass marketing thing. Yes, we don't have accredited marketer. I know it's weird. We paid a lot of money to trial the industry's best agencies for this shiz, and they came up with nothing good. We learned some genuinely meaningful, replicable things from it." So this is already pretty interesting because you would assume that most gaming studios, especially bigger ones, do have, accredited marketer or specific marketing team. Larian is doing it a little bit differently. So number one, hire funny people. The most meaningful connection you can have with audiences is what I call true social resonance. What this means is an authentic connection for the short or long term with an audience will F with what you're doing. So when hiring people to work for Larian, instead of, looking at everything on paper and looking at the numbers associated with this particular person, Larian's also looking at the personalities here and hiring funny, relatable people that an audience is going to want to follow and listen to and engage with. And that's actually a really interesting strategy. Really cool. We're going to skip number 2 and 3 and head down to number 4. The best way to connect with someone in a meaningful way is to speak their language in a way that makes them feel engaged. What do they want? Do you have it? Do you understand them? Exhibit it in a way that's authentic for you. Those of you that have been watching my channel for a while will know that I always say that one of Larian's strong suits is that they're able to speak to us gamers in a way that's very relatable and they feel like real people at Larian Studios versus 50 suits sitting in a meeting strategizing on KPIs, etc., and then forcing game developers to do what they want but they don't understand the product, and then speaking to the audience in a way that feels very computerized, etc. Larian doesn't come across like that, and it shows, and it is a lot more meaningful when you interact with Larian versus when you interact with a lot of other companies. Number 5, don't bamboozle. To establish true social resonance, you need a 50-50 relationship with an audience. They respect you, you respect them. This is where trad marketing is at odds and where communications supersede. Speak your truth and let them speak theirs. I think trad marketing is traditional marketing or trade marketing. But either way, trade marketing, traditional marketing tends to focus on retailers, distributors, wholesalers, and things of that nature versus focusing on direct connection with the actual customer. And Larian doesn't seem to do it that way. They seem to more so want to directly engage with the customer. And of course, this is the panel from Hells and the stuff like that we really resonate with, we engage with, and we get excited for. Number 7, impressions don't mean anything to you. They're a bogus economy that serve only to fund a quite literal false economy. It distances yourself from your target audience. Focus on tangible expressions, organic reactions, etc. Your CM is your most valuable asset. So Larian giving a little bit of a shout out to all the community managers out there, and obviously they care greatly about their own. Number 8, figure out how to execute your expression. Sometimes a live cow is the correct expression, sometimes raw gameplay is the right expression. You're looking for a meaningful connection, and the best way to do that is to express the best you can for the moment, but execute well. Once again, going back to the panel from Hells, we had that live cow that was actually Nick in wild shape form. Very unexpected, funny, exciting, executed extremely well. But then that might be followed up with just some pure raw gameplay where Larian's showing us the game in an unpolished form, and Sven might be TPKing in his own game in front of his audience, which feels really fun and real. It didn't feel like some, PowerPoint presentation that was put together to only show the best moments, etc. It felt very real, and it really resonated well with us audience members. And then pretty much at the end of this thread here, Michael says, if it isn't immediately obvious, I am very passionate about games, and that's why I take the responsibility of being brutally honest very seriously. It takes a lot of honesty and a lot of zeal to make this stuff work. Now, this guy definitely plays a lot of games. I've met him several times IRL now, and always talking about games. Every conversation about games that are good and upcoming and what's working in games and what he's excited for. And if you follow his Twitter, he's obviously always sharing games that he's playing and congratulating other studios that have done things well and things like that. And having your director of publishing be an actual real true full-on gamer who travels with his Nintendo Switch or his I think he has a Steam Deck, excuse me, I don't want to offend him. It's just really cool to see that. And of course, Sven Vinka, the owner of Larian Studios, is also like that, comes from games, is still in games, and everybody at Larian Studios that I talk to, they just feel like gamers like us, and obviously that shows, and I think that's very important. And once again, Larian is hiring people that are passionate about this versus hiring people that fit and can work the numbers better. Yeah, that's about it for this video. I think I was rambling a bit there at the end. Hopefully I made sense in this final segment of the video, but it's getting really late here. Yeah, thank you guys for watching. I'll catch you on the next one, and I'll keep you in the loop for all things Baldur's Gate 3 and Larian Studios.